Hola, buen día. Bienvenidos al webinario de la serie de MRV. Vamos a dar unos minutos más para que el resto de los asistentes confirmados se conecten. Hola, bienvenidos a todos. Vamos a dar unos minutos más para que se conecten algunas de las personas que estaban confirmadas. Bienvenida a Marí Corzón, que va a ser nuestra invitada de hoy. Ya pronto daremos las introducciones formales. Bueno, ya tenemos un poco más de las personas que se han unido al webinario. Bienvenidos nuevamente a todos y todas a nuestro webinario de la serie MRV. Este webinario de hoy es la continuación a la presentación de la herramienta de cálculo de emisiones de Mobilize Your City que les presentamos hace algunos días, y el espacio de hoy estará dedicado a atender sus consultas sobre la herramienta. En días pasados les hemos enviado los materiales, incluyendo los links para descargar la herramienta, su guía y tutoriales. Y el día de hoy contaremos con la participación de Marie Colson del Instituto de Investigación en Energía y Medio Ambiente, IFOI, por sus siglas en alemán. Mi nombre es Ana Eugenia Ureña, yo pertenezco al equipo de Euroclima Más y estaré facilitando la sesión de hoy. Em, la idea es bueno, que ojalá hayan podido profundizar sobre los materiales que les hemos enviado, repasar la herramienta, tal vez probarla. Y el día de hoy entonces lo que nos gustaría es escucharles y atender sus preguntas y sus consultas. Para esto, le doy la bienvenida también a Marie Colson. Ella hace investigación en inventarios de emisiones para el sector transporte, análisis político y económico. La señora Colson cuenta con una maestría en asuntos internacionales, ambiente y riesgo de la Universidad de Sciences Po París y con un posgrado en planificación de transporte e ingeniería de la Universidad de Napier, Edimburgo. Si han logrado ver los videos tutoriales, probablemente reconozcan la voz de Marie. Welcome, Marie, to this session of the webinar. Thank you for your time clarifying some of the doubts on the use of the emission calculator.
Hey, thanks for
Yo
inviting me.
estaré traduciendo las preguntas que ustedes nos han enviado a Marie. Marie, I am Anna. Nice to meet you. I will be translating the questions that the audience have sent us to you. Could you please maybe try your microphone to just confirm that we can listen to you?
You're not listening to me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh. Ah, okay. It's working?
Let me see if I should.
It's
I see that your
on my end.
microphone is on.
Yeah, it is on.
And yeah, and we are able to hear you. Perfect.
Oh, okay, good.
Okay.
I was afraid.
No, it's working fine.
Okay. So thanks for inviting me anyway.
Thank you for joining and developing the tools. I was just telling the audience that they might recognize your voice if they have already seen the tutorials.
Yeah. Should I put the video too? I mean, it's not really necessary, but what do you think? If people like to have an image or if you have anything to show, I don't know, you let me know.
I think it's if you may, I think it's better. Sometimes it's better to associate what you're saying to your gestures. So yeah, I think it works better.
Sure. Okay.
It would be great if you put your video on. I'll be reading the questions and translating them. So I will have my video off, but now we can see you. Perfect.
Hi.
Great. Hi, nice to meet you. Okay, Marie, so we have received some questions, but I want also to invite the audience to write questions on the space here in the GoToWebinar platform. Entonces, tenemos unas preguntas que hemos recibido de ustedes con anticipación, pero también los invito, conforme se va desarrollando la sesión, a escribir sus preguntas. Justo Andrea Palma está saludando a Marí y ahí donde dice salud Marí, podemos escribir las preguntas que van surgiendo conforme vayamos desarrollando la sesión. Entonces, sin más, comenzamos con las preguntas. La primera pregunta a Marie es sobre la carga, sobre transporte de carga terrestre, específicamente en la última milla. Y la pregunta es, ¿se pueden estimar o hacer cálculos para el transporte de carga terrestre a nivel urbano en la última milla? So, Marie, the first question is, does the tool allow to calculate emissions for the last mile in urban freight?
Maybe I would need some more information on that. The last so I think so, but I don't know exactly what is meant with last mile, because the tool is able to calculate all activity within a territory, which includes like last mile if the mileage and the type of vehicle is given. So I don't know why it's must specifically just do the last mile. What is the specificity of last mile for the person who asked the question?
Maybe if the person is in the audience, he or she could clarify. If not, I could assume that maybe if they want to implement specific measures for urban freight within a specific urban context or center, maybe they would like to estimate these specific emissions. But if you provide that as I understand it, if you provide that input to the tool, you could identify, I don't know, for example, how much I am mitigating if I start using cargo bikes, for example, instead of a different kind of fleet.
Yeah, absolutely. That you can do that. Though I think it's interesting to emphasize once again that the principle of the tool is to gather all the measures that are going to impact one of the main how will I say that, activities. That means it's the so-called avoid, shift, improve process. So we have to gather all the measures which have an impact on avoid, all the measures which have an impact on shift, and then on improve. That means it's not designed to calculate for just one measure, except there is only one measure which is impacting, for example, shift. Just to be clear on the purpose of the tool.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think we can move to the second question. Okay, vamos a, sorry, I haven't translated what you just said,
what
sorry.
mean, yeah, and then maybe they understood actually.
No, I'm sorry. Lo que nos está comunicando María es que para ella, bueno, primero que sí, si se incluyen los datos específicos en la herramienta, sí podríamos calcular o estimar las emisiones de esa última milla en transporte de carga. Sin embargo, o adicionalmente, Marí nos indica que es importante tomar en cuenta que la herramienta tiene un énfasis o su diseño está direccionado a un paquete de medidas dentro del marco evitar, cambiar y mejorar. Y que este es el concepto principal de la herramienta, o sea, como ese cálculo holístico, ese cálculo a escala de las emisiones. Okay, so I think we have another question, but in the meantime, I can go to the second question that we received. Entonces, ahora vamos a pasar a la segunda pregunta que recibimos, que es un dato generalmente complicado, es el de consumo de combustible por tipo de vehículo. Existen valores default cómo han sido calculados en otras latitudes. So the question, Marie, for you is, it is complicated to find data of the consume of fuel per vehicle type. So from your experience, are there default values for these that we could use, or how is this value calculated in other countries?
So it's a very good question. It's also for a lot of people complicated. So there are kind of defaults, if we want, at least in European countries. They have made research and they have made measurements, either within laboratories to run the motors and to see for which motor how much it consumes based on pre-defined cycle. Which means for each type of vehicle, we have so consumption data, but based on these cycles, so that means it's probably not the same as in other countries, so especially developing countries. So that means we have difference here in Europe, let's say, and there are databases for the World Bank, for example, or some other ones that give an orientation on the values, but these are really only defaults and are not obviously representative of the fleet of the country and the special usage on site, which means I recommend really to try to derive a local fuel consumption for the fleet. And after that, I can say something more about that. Maybe I'll let you
Translate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
translate in
okay.
between.
Thank you. Bueno, Mari dice que sí, que excelente pregunta. En Europa sí hay valores default. Estos han sido calculados a través de la experimentación y prueba en laboratorios. Es decir, sí hay datos de consumo. Sin embargo, estos están basados en el ciclo de uso de los vehículos en Europa. No son tan aptos para usarse en América Latina, es decir, no son representativos de la flotilla de vehículos que manejamos acá en América Latina. Y la recomendación de María es justamente tratar de derivar o de obtener los cálculos más específicos para cada caso. So, María,
Yeah.
would you like to add on that?
So I would say for the region, for Latin America, so spontaneously, I don't have a name of a source, but it may exist. Development banks are doing a lot of work in that, and there is an international initiative they are doing a lot on that too. I'm just having a look to give the reference right now.
I can translate while you look if you
Yeah.
want. Ok, entonces lo que dice María es que, bueno, que ella no cuenta con los datos default para la región, pero que piensa que podría existir, que hay muchos bancos de desarrollo haciendo investigación en estos datos y tiene el nombre o sabe que existe un instituto que en este momento está buscando a ver si encuentra rápidamente el nombre, si no, ella no los puede hacer llegar. Hay un instituto donde tal vez podría ser una buena fuente de información. Did you find the...
Yeah, there is a global fuel economy initiative, which is an international initiative. They are working for 10 years on that topic and all over the world. So in Asia and also I think in Latin America. So it's a big partnerships. It's IEA, UNEP, ICCT, and so on. And they are especially focusing on this topic, fuel economy. So I would recommend to look at their work, and they are also explaining the methodology to calculate that. That's a good start, let's say. That's the theoretical, let's say, point. When we are working on site in different countries, the sources we have, if there is almost no resource to calculate this kind of thing, It's, for example, surveys. You can try to derive based on the different type of vehicles you will have in the survey to try to restructure the fleet. So first you need to know the fleet, of course, and if you don't know the fleet, you will have a problem. But if you know that you have cars and 30% of the cars are rather so-called big cars, so you have to also to define what you name a big car, but try to have a bit of structure, let's say. And then you can possibly then ask the people how much they consume. It's not the best to be very precise, but it's a solution that has been used by several countries to do a first estimation, and then they try to integrate this kind of initiative to try to do it really with driving cycle and in the same way, same scientific way, let's say, as European countries or more or less.
Okay. May I translate that now? Bueno, lo que nos dice Marí es que este instituto que había mencionado se llama el Global Fuel Economy Initiative. Es una iniciativa más bien de global de la economía de los combustibles. Este puede ser una muy buena fuente para empezar a buscar información. Lleva más de 10 años trabajando en este tema alrededor de todo el mundo, tanto en Asia como América Latina, bueno, en general en todo el mundo. Dentro de sus socios está, para mencionar algunos, ICCT, UNEP, Naciones Unidas Medio Ambiente. Y bueno, justamente investiga sobre la economía de los combustibles. Ahí podría ser una buena fuente para buscar información y metodologías del cálculo. Esto es a nivel teórico. A nivel ya más práctico, lo que nos comenta María es que en algunos países han utilizado encuestas y bueno, de manera muy resumida nos explica que primero lo primero que tenemos que hacer es conocer la flotilla, cómo está compuesta la flotilla del país o la ciudad que queremos aproximar. Luego, definir bien y desglosar bien esa flotilla, estructurar qué tipos de vehículos tenemos ahí y preguntar a las personas cuánto consumen. Esta es una metodología que ha funcionado y que podría implementarse.
Yeah, and the last point on that, so we are writing, at least updating the guidelines for MYC. That will be also available on the website. And we are trying to develop a bit more about how to get the data. So we'll try as far as possible to give insight on sources, possible sources and methodologies. So I would rather say it can be a good idea to read the guideline afterwards. It would be soon available. And for extreme cases, maybe before the extreme cases, if there are researches to carry on about fuel economy, because there is no literature in the country, there is no research at that point, no measurements done, I would rather contact universities, because it could be that they have already done some work on that, and they could be very good partners, actually. And in extreme cases where there is really no resource, a part of having some surveys, you could also, this is what we have done in some African country, take a team to drive cars, actually, within the city or within the region, whatever, and try to get enough people to drive some cars for some days around the city and try to derive an average, which is not scientific, but which is quite practical when you don't have any solution.
Ok, bueno, Marí nos ofrece una serie de recursos, ideas para recopilar esta data. El primero es que con Mobilize Your City se están desarrollando guidelines o guías para donde especifica un poco más cómo se puede recopilar esta data y estas guías estarán disponibles próximamente, entonces las estaremos compartiendo. Los invitamos a usarlas, a explorarlas para encontrar maneras de cómo pueden ustedes investigar un poco más y obtener los datos que requieren. Marí también nos dice que, bueno, cuando no hay literatura, cuando no hay investigaciones, cuando no hay trabajos hechos sobre este tema en los países, que, bueno, primero las universidades pueden ser muy buenos aliados y que tal vez ahí se puedan encontrar estudios e investigaciones o apoyo para desarrollarlos, pero que lo que han hecho en algunos países africanos cuando de verdad no hay nada de información es que en conjunto con el equipo salen a la calle y manejan los vehículos a los cuales necesitan desarrollar estos datos de consumo de combustible por la ciudad, algunos kilómetros y con base en esta información se generan algunas aproximaciones. No son los estudios más científicos con los que se cuentan, no es el escenario ideal, pero bueno, es una opción en caso de que no haya información disponible. Marie, would you like to add something else about this
No,
question?
it's what I think about right now, but I think the guideline will be a good way to look at the different possibilities and see according to what's available, which solution could fit to the specific case, of the country or the city.
Okay, so I'm going to move to the next question. So, sí, nuevamente el mensaje de María va dirigido hacia esa guía que se está por publicarse para empezar a explorar. Bueno, la siguiente pregunta sería, ¿cómo se puede incluir flotas de bajas emisiones como vehículos a gas, eléctricos o Euro 5 y superiores? So the question goes, it's about low emission fleets. How can the low emission fleets like EV, gas, Euro 5 and above be included in the calculator?
So there is already a possibility to give the amount of kilometers in percentage driven by alternative vehicles, which includes electric vehicles or gas vehicles. So it's included within the tool. It's planned. That's one thing. It's a technology that's included. What is not included is the Euro norms. So the Euro norms have most of an impact on the pollutants, not so much on the, depending which one, but not so much on the, yeah.
Could you repeat what's not included that I missed?
The Euro norms, the Euro standards, so Euro 5. Maybe
Okay.
if you want, you can, sorry, I always forgot. I stop there and you can still, and I go do it afterwards.
Okay, so there is already a possibility in the tool to include this data of EV. Perdón.
But yeah, you must
Sorry. Hay una posibilidad de incluir esos datos en la herramienta ya. Según la tecnología de eléctricos, de gas, etcétera. Lo que no hay es para incluir los estándares euro. Okay, back to you, Marie.
So Euro standards, they have an impact most of the time on pollutants, especially the last one in the last, let's say, 10 years. Of course, if you compare Euro 0 to Euro 5, you will have a bit of a difference, but for the fuel consumption. But most of the time, it's really impacting the pollutants, which we don't have in the tool. Though, if you want to include the very efficient vehicle that you have, that's the point of aggregating. It's about having the fleet and try to derive this average fuel consumption for each of the vehicle categories in the tool. That's something that has to be done for each category. And that's something to do before using the tool. That's an input to the tool.
Just a question on this answer. So we could add or aggregate to the tool a specific vehicle, a specific kind of vehicle if we want. I'm sorry, I could.
So alternative fuels, like e-cars or gas-powered vehicles, everything that's not with the conventional ones, let's say. So at least the conventional ones are also within it, but the question is, what about the not conventional alternative fuels? They are included in the tool. So it's something you can say, okay, from now on, from 2025 on, I have 5% of the kilometers driven by e-cars. So that will be an input of the tool. You can say that, so input it into the tool. So that's planned.
Okay.
What is hidden in a way in the tool is how the development of the fleet is impacting the average fuel consumption of gasoline and diesel vehicle, which is also something that is rather good because you consume less, but we have no vehicle fleet module or model to give any average consumption. So normally we have, so in Europe, we have some models where we give the different the structure of our fleet, which kind of vehicles, the size, the age, we give the average consumption of the different vehicles, and then at the end we get an emission. So not an emission factor, a consumption factor. Let's say how many liter per kilometer our car fleet is having. But it's an entire modeling. That's what I mean. So if you have to integrate new cars, which makes sense, then you have to get the average fuel consumption for gasoline and diesel to put it into the tool. So it's not included into the tool to have this calculation. I hope I'm clear.
I hope I can translate it. Okay, just taking a few notes. Okay, just a second. Un segundo. Ok. Bueno, entonces la pregunta con respecto a los combustibles alternativos, si hay un espacio en la herramienta, es un dato que se da como un input o como un insumo a la herramienta para este tipo de vehículos. Sin embargo, está, por decirlo de alguna manera, un poco oculto. Lo tienen que poner en cómo el desarrollo de la flota está en cómo va a ir cambiando la flota o cómo esa estructura de flota, el cambio de esa estructura de flota está impactando el consumo de los combustibles. Mari comenta que en Europa, por ejemplo, tienen herramientas donde ustedes pueden poner el modelo, el porcentaje que ocupa la flota, el tamaño, el año, el consumo, y esto les puede dar un factor de consumo de combustible. Pero en la herramienta, para estos nuevos tipos de vehículos se debe encontrar o investigar sobre el consumo promedio de gasolina o combustible para incorporarlo en esa manera en cómo va a ir evolucionando la flota. Ok, so vamos a pasar a la siguiente pregunta. Montserrat, ¿tenemos alguna pregunta de la audiencia que está conectada o continúo con las preguntas?
Claro, tenemos 3 preguntas. Si quieres las hago de una vez.
Sí, dale, adelante. So, Marie, we have questions from the audience, so Montserrat is going to read them. Adelante, Monse.
Okay. Bueno, la primera, the first one, can we have an example of measures that are to be calculated with the tool, especially how you go through, avoid, shift, improve?
I have the sensation there are two questions in one. One, an example of measure, sure. For example, for the shift, you could have the development of a BRT system, for example, in the city, so bus rapid transit. And once you give the tool how many kilometers are driven by the BRT, what's the occupancy rate of this BRT, and where do people come from? That means, are there 50% coming from cars? Are they coming from bus, actually, from the previous bus? Or are they coming from motorcycle modes? Then you can calculate what you are saving in terms of GHG emissions. That's an example. The second part of the question, I'm not entirely sure I understood it entirely.
Monse, ¿podría repetir la pregunta?
Claro. Can we have an example of measures that are to be calculated with the tool? Especially how you go through, avoid, shift, improve.
How you go through?
Maybe, Mary, I will translate what you just said about the shift, and then go. Entonces, un ejemplo de esta pregunta que nos acaban de hacer es, por ejemplo, si vamos a hacer una medida de shift o de cambio. Y esto quiere decir que estamos haciendo migración modal, que estamos viniendo de un modo de transporte a otro. Y, por ejemplo, a otro más limpio, por supuesto. Y, por ejemplo, lo que nos dice María es, si yo como ciudad quiero desarrollar un sistema de BRT, entonces yo puedo integrar en la herramienta los kilómetros que voy a construir de este sistema, el porcentaje de ocupación o la cantidad de ocupación que va a tener este sistema y el porcentaje y de qué otros modos están migrando los usuarios, por ejemplo, que si vienen de otros buses o que si vienen del vehículo privado. Y así yo puedo calcular, estos datos los puedo ingresar en el sistema y así puedo calcular las emisiones que estaría mitigando. Este sería el ejemplo de shift.
Okay. Aquí la muchacha que nos escribió con esta pregunta acaba de respondernos. Question was related to her response about the tool taking measures only from avoid, shift, improve, but with her answer was clear for me already. Thanks.
Okay.
Muchas gracias. Perfecto. Monse, tal vez pasamos entonces a la siguiente pregunta. Next question.
Okay. ¿Cómo es la compatibilidad con la metodología de IPCC? ¿Y cómo se puede alinear con los resultados de los inventarios de los gobiernos subnacionales, provincias, estados y de los estados?
Just a second.
Yeah.
Did you understood or?
About to say, I think I understood the question, but you can say it again so that I'm sure I understood it.
Just in case, how are the results in the tool compatible to the IPCC standards, and how can it be aligned with local inventories?
So it's a good question. Actually, we have developed the tool so that it's IPCC conform for countries, at least because cities, of course, do not report. So the default factor, we are using the emission factors, which means CO2 per megajoule of fuel, are coming from the IPCC guidelines 2006. So they are conform to the actual requirements for developing countries. So you can use the emissions that are given by the tool if you do it at the national level, of course. And you have the codes of the IPCC, the reporting codes that are given in the overview table. So you have the, at least for road, because we are talking about road most of the time, and a bit of rail, you have the 1A, 3B, I, and so all the codes that you have in the reporting forms are within the tool at the end in the results and the overview of the results, so you can report it. For the one we calculate, because of course there are other emissions that we don't calculate in the tool, such as navigation or even pipeline emissions, or these kind of things that are not included.
Ok, para las emisiones que están incluidas en la herramienta, bueno, primero que la herramienta se hizo con base o se desarrolló alineada a los estándares de la IPCC y a los requisitos de la IPCC para países de desarrollo, y todos los códigos de reportes que salen como resultado al final de la herramienta son compatibles con los códigos, o son justamente para alimentar los códigos de reporte de la IPCC.
Just to be sure, but normally the person who is reporting knows that, but the IPCC is reporting tank to wheel. So
say again, the IPCC is
the reports for the IPCC are planned to be tank to wheel emissions. That means from the what the vehicle is emitting, not the upstream emissions. In the tool, you have the option to switch from one to the other one, well to wheel, so the entire energy process, let's say, or from the tank to the wheel, which is just the vehicle. So if you report to the IPCC, you have to choose tank to wheel in the tool, just as information.
Okay, sí, thank you. I think that's very useful. Es importante saber que la herramienta nos permite calcular las emisiones de abajo hacia arriba o de arriba hacia abajo, y la IPCC solicita el reporte tank to wheel, y esto tiene que ajustarlo en la herramienta para que sea compatible con lo que solicita la IPCC, pero en todo caso la herramienta da los resultados en ambas maneras, en ambas formas. Ok. Monse, ¿tenemos alguna pregunta adicional de la audiencia o vuelvo a las preguntas que nos habían enviado?
Tenemos una última.
Adelante.
Dice, last webinar was told that we could use similar data to estimate when data is not available. Question, how can we identify similarities to know from where to pick the data?
Maybe to build on that question, one of the solutions that we discussed about last webinar when the data is not available in our country is to explore other countries that have already made research and maybe translate those data to our country. Yeah, the question addresses that conversation that we had last time on the webinar, and yeah, it, as Monse says, it asks for recommendations on how we can find those criteria or similarities to know that we could use that data.
So the point which is unclear for me is data, because there are a lot of data.
Maybe,
right?
sorry.
So data generally is a bit large.
Can I just quickly intervene? Because last time I mentioned that if you don't have any idea about fuel consumption, I think the question was around fuel consumption of the vehicles. So what I said was that if you have no idea, then to think about how other countries that might already have fuel consumption data, like, and the example I gave was to say that, for instance, in Mexico, perhaps the fleet is similar to that of the US. Then you could say, let's look at the, more similar than that to Europe, maybe. So then you can think about, is it doable or to look at the US fuel consumption for instance, compared to Kenya, where we know that they have a there's like a large secondhand market for Japanese vehicles. So you would rather look at the Japanese fuel consumption and not the American fuel consumption. This is what I was saying.
Yeah, of course, if you have similar countries, the question is how similar it is, but at least you could have a little look at the fleet to see which type of cars or which type of trucks are on the roads, what are the registration numbers, to be sure you take data from comparable countries. But of course, you can look at the neighbors to see what they do. It's actually a possibility you have also under the Global Fuel Economy Initiative, because they have published a lot of reports from different countries which have done the work of trying to derive average fuel consumption, mostly for private vehicle. And there are reports for, I work for Africa, so I know there are reports for Africa, but they have other countries. So it could be a possibility actually to implement what Oda proposed to do. But you just have to find the source, of course. That's the work to do.
Bueno, nada más para reafirmar lo que conversamos la vez anterior, si hay similaridades entre los países, sí se puede o sí es recomendable fijarse sobre o referirse al consumo de combustible de países con condiciones similares. Y hay reportes, por ejemplo, para países africanos por la experiencia de Mari, que ha trabajado en estos países, ella sabe que hay reportes sobre estos datos que se podrían utilizar. Nada más voy a profundizar un poco o retomar un poco el tema de la pregunta con Mari. Mari, in this context, maybe going back to the question that the audience asked, which are the characteristics that you might see, like, it's not only about being neighbor countries, it's also, there are maybe certain characteristics that one should look into to confirm that, yeah, maybe I could use the data from this country to in fuel consumption to translate it to my country or adapt it to my country. Which are those characteristics that you think that one could look into? I don't know, for example, fleet composition, I don't know.
So no, exactly. The most important one is fleet composition. So it depends if you're a city or a country. If you're a city, it's kind of easy. If the country has done the work, you take the average of the country. That's quite straightforward. If you're a country and you don't have any research on that, and you can't do absolutely anything, you can look at the other countries, and in this case, you have to have your registration, vehicle registrations, to know how many vehicles you have and what is the composition of your fleet. So for cars, for example, to see what's the size of the car, what's the age of the car, and possibly the standard, but for fuel consumption it's not so of importance, but it's correlated with age. So age and size are really the two factors that influence a lot the fuel consumption. So you compare your fleet of your country with the fleet of the other country to see if it's kind of something you can compare, and then you can use their average.
Okay. Bueno, uno, en respuesta a la pregunta, uno de los principales factores que hay que comparar es la composición de la flota. A escala de ciudad, bueno, se compara entre ciudades, y a escala de país el promedio del país, pero lo que recomienda Marí es ver con lupa el registro de vehículos, ver qué tamaño tienen, qué edad tienen, cómo está compuesta la flota, qué porcentajes de cada uno hay, y si son comparables con los del país donde estamos haciendo los cálculos, entonces sí podemos usar esa referencia.
Or a possibility is if you're not looking at average for cars, for example, but you want to have the fuel consumption of, let's say, mini cars, which are not above this power of the motor power, for example. So you have to categorize your fleet. And once you have that, you could try to find in similar countries, for example, in the US or in South America, for each of the subcategories, what's the average consumption of these subcategories, and then you could build your own average based on the more specific data, so fuel consumption data. That's also a possibility.
Otra posibilidad, otra recomendación que nos ofrece Marí es de alguna manera desmenuzar o segregar la flota y buscar comparativos por tipo, por subcategoría, por decirlo de alguna manera. Entonces, para poner un ejemplo, si lo que estamos buscando o el dato que nos falta es el consumo de mini vehículos, podemos buscar flotas de composición similar de de esta subcategoría en Estados Unidos o en América del Sur y utilizar estos datos. Y así podríamos construir nuestra información de consumo de combustible a partir de comparaciones con categorías de otros países. O sea, no necesariamente tenemos que comparar solamente el país con país en composición similar de flota, sino podemos hacerlo por subcategoría.
Yeah, and the last point is the fleet is definitively the main point, though there are other factors that have an influence on the consumption. Just for information, but it's more refinement, let's say something you would want to look at if you already have some data. It's the type of driving pattern, which means if you're in if you do a city inventory and there are a lot of traffic jams, so the persons are always braking and going forward and braking, and it's consuming a lot more fuel as normal driving 90 kilometers on a free highway. So that's something you could take into account, especially if you're a city driving patterns. The other thing is the maintenance of the vehicle. If there is a poor maintenance, most of the time they use much more fuel. And it's also the type of ground, let's say, if you have a big hills or the country is with very poor roads, then you will probably consume more as a US highway. That are the other parameters.
Ok. Bueno, además de la composición de la flota, Marí nos apunta otros parámetros que hay que tomar en consideración para cuando se hacen estas referencias. Uno es el patrón de conducción, es decir, si nosotros hay que tomar en cuenta si estamos en un país donde hay muchas filas, saturación, trancones, depende como le digan en cada país. Entonces los conductores van a estar siempre frenando y esto va a hacer que el consumo de combustible, por supuesto, sea diferente. Entonces no vamos a comparar una flota o estos patrones de información de estos patrones de conducción con información de países donde, por ejemplo, hay más autopistas. Otro es el tema de mantenimiento. Entre menos mantenimiento, más consumo de combustible. Entonces, eso también debería ser un factor de comparación. Y finalmente, la infraestructura. Cuando hay infraestructura que no ha sido bien construida o mantenida, entonces esto va también a provocar mayor consumo de combustible. Entonces, además de la composición de la flota, los otros datos que queremos ver para asegurarnos que podamos hacer una comparación segura son el patrón de conducción, el mantenimiento y la infraestructura. Okay, I think we have time for one more question. Me parece que tenemos tiempo para una pregunta más. Monse, ¿tenemos alguna pregunta en la audiencia? O si no, yo acá tengo alguna otra que...
No, de la audiencia ahorita no tenemos otra.
Ok, So Maria, our last question. I think we have time for one more.
I'm not hearing anything anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
Me neither.
yeah.
Um,
I think if Anna is, we can give her another minute, but if she's not coming back, then I think because there's no new questions, maybe there was still one open question from the last webinar. We can wait another minute, and then otherwise we need to close at this point. Let's just wait a second. Ok, parece que Ana tiene problemas con su conexión. Entonces, yo creo que en este momento vamos a finalizar el webinario. So I think we stop at this point for today. She's having connection problems. She can actually hear us, she says. Ana nos puede escuchar bien, pero no podemos escuchar a ella.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, lo siento, sí. Bueno, de todas maneras, ya podemos ir cerrando por el tiempo. No sé qué, si tuve un problema con la conexión, lo siento mucho. Pero bueno, quería agradecer a Mari por su disposición, por su tiempo, por las preguntas que nos ha contestado. Nosotros seguimos en contacto con ustedes. Vamos a abrir un grupo sobre MRU en nuestra comunidad de práctica, en donde esperamos poder seguir interactuando sobre este tema. Y bueno, desearles una feliz tarde o día, depende de donde nos estén escuchando, y estaremos en comunicación sobre este tema. Por favor, si tienen más preguntas, o más dudas o mayor retroalimentación, les agradezco que nos hagan llegar a través del correo electrónico o a través de este grupo la duda. Muchas gracias nuevamente, Mari. No sé si quieres dar algunas palabras de cierre.
Thank you very much too.
Thank you very much for your answers, for your tips, for your work developing this tool. We will keep in touch. Definitely, I have just told the audience that if they have more questions, they can contact us through. I will be happy to facilitate any questions, or through the community of practice, where we are going to open an MRV group.
Yeah, of course, and don't be afraid. It's not an easy work. I'm doing that for years, and I have always new problems and new questions on how I can do the GHG emissions of transport. So it's normal to just try and plan some time to do that, because it's not an easy job.
Dice Mari como mensaje final que bueno, que ella ha estado haciendo este trabajo por 4 años. No es un trabajo fácil, pero que no tenga miedo, que que se animen y que con gusto estaremos ahí para retroalimentar. Muchas gracias entonces a todos y nos vemos en el próximo webinario. Gracias, María. Thank you, Marie. Bye, bye.
Thanks. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.